House Democrats have launched a discharge petition to try to compel an up or down vote on a straight 3-year extension so we can provide working class Americans with the same level of certainty that my Republican colleagues provided their billionaire donors when passing the one big ugly bill.
Minority Leader Jeffries, let's talk about that discharge petition.
Just when it felt like politics had reached peak chaos, Hakeem stepped right into the spotlight. Things heated up fast on CNBC when Jeff found himself in a tense exchange as he tried to sidestep questions about House Democrats pushing for a 3-year extension of Obamacare subsidies. The interviewer finally ran out of patience. This host didn't sugarcoat a thing. To her, Jeff was simply dodging. The back and forth became so awkward that viewers could practically feel the tension. Jeff kept getting pressed to explain what he meant, yet he never offered a straight answer. It was one of those moments on live TV that makes you think, wait, did that really just happen? And if you're into this kind of political drama, remember to hit that subscribe.
You need 218 votes in the House in order to pass that. You've got 214 members in the Democratic caucus. So you only need 4 House Republicans to have to sign onto it to get this passed. But the idea of saying that this is a 3-year extension instead of a 1 or even 2-year extension has any potential Republicans saying, forget it, this is dead on arrival. That's the opinion of Representative Don Bacon. He's a Republican from Nebraska who has been working with the idea of potentially extending for 2 years.
Button. It helps you stay connected and keeps this channel moving forward. Now let's break down what actually unfolded on CNBC. Here's the situation. During a conversation about the Democrats' attempt to force action on Obamacare subsidies, Hakeem Jeff found himself cornered. He kept saying, "We just need cooperation from the other side." And if you're wondering what a discharge petition means, it's basically a tool lawmakers use to force a vote if they collect enough signatures. In this case, the goal was to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies for another 3 years.
But 3 years, they say, is dead on arrival. So if this is something that you want to satiate, if you want to get done, you are going to need at least some Republicans to come over. Why not start with a 1-year extension or potentially even a 2-year extension?
Well, Leader Schumer offered a 1-year extension in the context of trying to end the Trump Republican shutdown.
Yeah, but that's different. I'm talking about what you have now. Let's not go back to what's done in the past and what has not been extended. If you want to get something that has actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisan.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Question instead.
3 years. This wasn't just paperwork. It was It was a bold move. It all added fuel to the growing debate over healthcare, one of the biggest political battles in the United States. At the time, Jeffrey was pushing hard alongside House Democrats for a full 3-year extension. You might ask, why 3 years? Because stretching it out that long allows Democrats to frame any Republican resistance as an attack on affordable health care right as the next presidential race approaches.
Providing an answer in order to provide context. Republicans have repeatedly refused to take yes for an answer. It was a very reasonable multi-year extension that was offered. It was a 1-year straight extension plus a multi-year process through a bipartisan commission to more permanently resolve the Affordable Care Act issue. So having that context is absolutely important, regardless of what you may think.
It's important context to make me realize that I don't think you want to get a deal done. I think this is something where you'd like to see the rates go higher.
Strategically, that's a serious power play. But the real spark came when the CNBC host pressed Jeffrey on why the petition had 0 bipartisan backing. Democrats need 4 Republicans to sign on before anything can move forward, yet none had stepped up. Meanwhile, some Republicans, including Don Bacon of Nebraska, argued that Jeffrey's long-term plan was simply too ambitious. With the current political climate already strained, he believed a 3-year renewal didn't stand a chance. So the host cut straight to the point. Why not support a shorter, more practical extension that Republicans might actually agree to? Instead of answering clearly, Jeff drifted into past proposals and insisted that Republicans weren't willing to accept even a straightforward win.
And allow the Republicans to hang themselves with that. Is that the answer?
That's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. And really, shame
3 years
on you
is not going to get passed, so what do you do?
Shame on you for saying that. Because we're fighting. It's not a partisan issue for us. In fact, the states that are most impacted as it relates to an Affordable Care Act tax credit expiration are all Republican states. We're talking about West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska, Mississippi, right? Tennessee. over and over and
That's
over
why
again.
you
We can go through
probably
the
have
list.
some Republicans who would sign on if you guys could come up with something that actually looks like a budget.
But that didn't address the immediate question, and the more he dodged, the more frustrated the host became. She kept pulling him back to the present and demanding direct responses, exactly the kind of clarity CNBC viewers, mostly business-minded people looking for solid ideas, expect. They want sharp thinking, not circles. This is where things really start to take shape. The main dispute centered on what many saw as a double standard in the push for a longer extension. In earlier moments, Democrats have been willing to accept a shorter plan to prevent messy government shutdowns.
Do you think that, what do you think do you think you were successful in shutting down the government? Do you think you got what you wanted?
We didn't shut the government down. Donald Trump and Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And in fact, the American people, prior to the shutdown, during the shutdown, and after the shutdown, know who was responsible for the government shutting down. And in fact, in the midst of it all, Republicans refused to even sit down and have a conversation about keeping healthcare affordable for everyday Americans. And so we're going to move past it. We have a Affordable Care Act tax credit expiration deadline that we need to tackle. We have a whole set of spending agreements that we need to find common ground on in advance of those agreements expiring in terms of the continuing resolution by the end of January. We just need partnerships.
But 3 years later, their demands suddenly shifted to a long-term approach, as if they had only now realized it was necessary. The host hinted that the strategy seemed less about improving healthcare and more about gaining political advantage, even though she acknowledged the shift toward a 3-year goal. Jeffries' responses, repeating familiar lines that likely tested the patience of viewers as much as the host, did little to counter that impression. Meanwhile, everyday Americans continue to struggle with high premiums and overwhelming medical expenses. Republicans have repeatedly accused Democrats of putting on a show, claiming the real issues within Obamacare, especially affordability, are getting buried beneath political maneuvering. And then there's the point Jeffrey made before his remarks were brushed aside. Republican-led states stand to feel the effects in a major way. Using that reality as a bargaining chip, critics say, is risky business. These states often have conservative leadership, which only intensifies the debate. The host's blunt approach seemed to echo a growing attitude found in many discussions today. Be honest. Tell us exactly how you're helping people and cut.
Now, Republicans said in the House they were willing to deal with the Affordable Care Act tax credit issue after the government funding agreement was reached. Well, now the government shutdown is over, and there's still been no conversations with House Republican leaders.
Mike Johnson never said that. The leader never said that. You do have Republicans, though, who would agree with you on something if it was actually bipartisan in nature. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Actually, Mike Johnson actually did say that there was always a plan to specifically deal with the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. In fact, he said that repeatedly. So I'm not sure what you're referencing.
I think their plan is something that looks more like an HCA, which I'm guessing you would say is dead on arrival too. If you want to set up these healthcare plans that are funded instead of going through the ACA, I'm assuming you would say that's dead on arrival too, because there have been Republicans who've put that forward. Am I wrong in thinking you would not go along with that?
What I'm saying is that what's in front of us is the immediate expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Republicans have had all year to deal with this issue, and they've refused.
Cut out the nonsense. That straightforward energy is what drew so much attention to the exchange and helped the clip spread widely online. In truth, this argument is just one small piece of a much larger, unstable picture. The U.S. healthcare system is full of moving parts, and every decision carries both immediate policy consequences and long-term election implications. It highlights just how complicated and unpredictable these debates have become. Republicans argued that previous Democratic choices helped bring on the problem, pointing to major tax cuts that, in their view, drained money needed for key programs like healthcare. And honestly, if you listen closely to each side, you'll find bits of truth mixed into all their claims. Still, it's easy to understand why viewers want something more than finger-pointing. They want actual solutions. Let's zoom out for a moment. Picture the pressure of speaking on live television. In a field where clear answers matter most, Jeffries' hesitation and heavy use of political language didn't strengthen his case, even if his arguments had some logic behind them. Could he have turned things around? Possibly, but his message got lost behind what felt like nonstop political maneuvering and overly complicated explanations. And maybe, just maybe, before wearing out a public already tired of endless policy battles, both parties should rethink how they handle these debates. To people watching at home, it all feels like the same old story playing on repeat, even though the politicians act as if they're introducing something brand new. But this time, the audience wasn't convinced. People are asking for straightforward conversations that actually address real problems. So what did you think of Jeffries' approach and the Democrats' broader strategy? Was the host right to call out the obvious, or should they have taken a different route? Share your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear what you think.